back to another episode of Publicized Theory Podcast, the place where I talk about self mastery, self development, and concepts that'll help us become the best version of ourselves. This episode is being recorded on February 29th, which is leap year. So happy leap year, everyone. We only get this every 4 years. So I guess it's only right that in 2024, I'm recording a podcast on this day just to make it a little special. Happy leap year, everyone. The last episode was more so of a reflection and a open letter to a future me. So for all those who actually listened to that episode through and through, I appreciate you. This episode, however, is getting back to what publicized theory is all about. Today, I will be talking about being in control and asking a question to everyone, which is pretty simple in that, are you really in control? Now, on the surface level of all of that, many people will say, of course, I have free will. I get up every day and I do what I want for the most part. Obviously, doing what you want will probably consist of relaxing, being on vacation, living your best life. But for the most part, most people would say, yes, I am in control. There's nothing wrong with feeling like you are in control if, in fact, you are in control. And what I mean by that is, are you aware of things, or should I say triggers, that cause you to behave in a way that is some would categorize as out of character? Are you in control of thoughts that may make you feel negative emotions? Are you in control of your mind and the things that causes you to do things that for the most part are detrimental to the places and the things that you want to accomplish? Now, the mind is a powerful tool. It's the mind that has created most of the things that we see on earth now. It's the mind that has evolved. It's the mind that has helped us become dominant within the world as a species. And with that comes a great deal of, I don't want to say responsibility, but more so awareness and understanding that we may want to go in a direction, but our mind may take us in an opposite direction because our mind, for the most part, is wired based on a set of standards that allows it to be in control. What I mean by that is when we do things habitually without even necessarily thinking, that is our mind for the most part in control and understanding and knowing the tendencies that you have, some of which can be negative, some of which can be positive. And being in control for the most part is understanding what those negative tendencies are and being able to adapt and evolve those tendencies into positive tendencies that can help you get to where you want to go. I'll give an example. Let's say you have certain triggers. Let's say if someone questions you or if someone tells you what to do, you may say, honestly, don't tell me what to do. I don't appreciate it. Now, you were triggered, right? Emotionally, you were triggered. Emotionally, you may react in a way that is not necessarily ideal for that particular situation. I know I've had situations where I reacted, I would say, out of pocket or out of character or just not in a way that really represented what was going on. If anything, I overreacted. If anything, I wasn't in control because what was in control were emotions that ignited actions in me that were not warranted in that specific situation. We have to take into account everything that on a daily basis, for the most part, controls us. A lot of the time, what controls us are the thoughts that we have in our mind, the thoughts that tell us we can't do something, the thoughts that tell us we're not good enough, the thoughts that make us feel fear, the thoughts that stresses us out, the thoughts that produces anxiety, depression, and an overwhelming feeling of hopelessness. Those are the thoughts that will, for the most part, take over mentally and control us to the point where we feel like we have no options, we have no opportunities, we have no way out. We are stuck in whatever situation we are a part of. We're stuck. There's no way out. The mind and the thoughts that you have will control you. Now, the great thing about the mind is you have the ability to hardwire yourself in another direction. You have the ability to gradually produce a set of new thoughts, a set of new processes, a set of new habits that will ultimately align with the things and the places that you want to go and the dreams that you want to fulfill. But how do we get there? How do we rewire our mind to think of things in a different way? First off, I would start out by saying you have the power to talk back to yourself. You have the power to mentally speak to yourself in a way that is more positive, that is more enlightening, that is affirming your control and your ability to get the job done and to feel the way you want to feel. You have that power every day. The thoughts in our head are simply, at least the ones that we don't want to have, are simply there in many ways to intimidate us, to derail us, to make us feel like, yeah, we are not in control, when in actuality, we are. And the mind and the thoughts that we have would love to operate on autopilot. It will love to be in a cycle where it is feeding off of things that is ultimately gratifying because it's within a certain comfort zone that you operate in. Now, the moment you step out of that comfort zone, that's when your thoughts and your mind freaks out because it cannot operate on autopilot in a new setting, in a new environment. And most of the times when we are accomplishing goals and we are putting ourselves in situations that are new, that are challenging, that are in many ways culture shocking, the mind will freak out. The next time you feel like you cannot control your thoughts, what I want you to do is close your eyes and ask your mind this one question. I wonder what my next thought will be. And once you ask that question, I want you to intently monitor and watch your mind and your thoughts. And if nothing comes to mind, if no thoughts are produced, that is because your mind is aware of the fact that you are monitoring what it may think. It sounds crazy, but your mind and your thoughts do not like to be monitored. It does not like to be watched because if you are watching what you think and you are monitoring the thoughts that you have, you are essentially in a position to control the next thought that you have. And the mind cannot operate if you are in control. Because, like I said before, the mind loves to operate on autopilot. It loves to make you feel a certain way. It loves to dominate your day in a way that, in some ways, is positive if you have a mind that feeds off of that positivity. But if you aren't in a negative spiral, if you are in a negative momentum at the moment in your life, that's what your mind will continue to feed off of. And it's only until you gradually begin to develop positive momentum in your life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, however it is that you go about your day to day, that's when the mind will gravitate towards those positive aspects in your life. But if you are in a negative momentum right now, your mind will continue to feed off of that negativity. And up until the point where you decide to be in control and you understand that tomorrow doesn't exist, yesterday won't be back, and all I have is now. And what can I do in this present moment? And how can I take full advantage of this present moment in time? Then you can begin to gradually tackle the thoughts that are in your head by focusing on everything that you can do with the time that you have. It may be small things, it may be some big, but every day, how you can control that moment is understanding that you only have that moment. Your mind will gravitate towards the future. Your mind will gravitate towards the past. Your mind will gravitate towards any and anything that doesn't deal with being aware of the time that you have right now. It'll be filled with what ifs. It'll be filled with, are you sure? It'll be filled with uncertainty. It'll be filled with a lot of negatively charged thoughts if you are in that space, if you are operating in that frequency. So ask yourself, are you really in control? Are there things that you can control better or that you can take full control of today and moving forward that you feel like is holding you back in some way? If you're having those same thoughts, what are thoughts that you can replace those thoughts with? How can you begin to unpack and have conversations with individuals in your life that you feel is closely attached to the trauma that you may be dealing with? We all have some sort of experience that left a lasting impression in our lives, some of which are positive, others can be negative. And when it's negative, then that comes with baggage if it's left unresolved. So, whether it's situations that are controlling you in terms of how you act because of those situations, whether it's people in your life that cause you to act in a certain way that you don't particularly feel comfortable, but they trigger negative things in you that causes you to act that way. There are so many little things in our lives that on the top layer of it all may seem like doesn't control us to a certain degree, but when you peel back the layers, you realize like, wow, I've been letting something that happened to me 2 years ago control how I move now, and that was an isolated situation. That was something that I should have forgotten about and left in the past a long time ago. Why is that still controlling how I move and how I operate? These are all things that we should begin to think about. These are all things that we should begin to dissect within ourselves because we always want to be in control. We always want to understand that we have the power every day to change our life in any which direction we so choose to. But we need to have that control, especially over our thoughts, especially over our mind, especially over the direction in which our lives are going in. Think about these things. Think about what may trigger you on any given day, what triggers you on a day to day, whatever the case may be, and find a way to take back that control, find a way to resolve those emotions, resolve those issues, heal and forgive those people, mend those relationships, and understand that you have the power to control how you feel, control the thoughts that pop up in your head, and everything about the environment and the aura that you operate in. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Publicized Theory. I greatly appreciate it. If this episode resonated with you, don't hesitate to share it with your friends, share it with your family, leave feedback, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. It's always, always greatly appreciated. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed.